Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You are at the 110th Women's Canadian Club of Hamilton meeting on Wednesday, May 18th. Today we have a special guest with us. His name is Robin McKee, who will take us on a virtual tour of Hamilton Cemetery and entertain us with stories of some of the fascinating women who reside there. Yes, they reside there. Robin McKee is very passionate about Canadian history, especially Hamilton's history. In an effort to teach others about the rich history of Hamilton, he hosts walking tours at the Hamilton Cemetery on York Boulevard. Now, that's the safest place to be because everyone is 6 feet under. Many of the tours have themes such as the War of 1812, disasters, former mayors, and we are delighted that Robin will be giving us an overview of the women's tour. He has a long list of a distinguishing career. He's a graduate of McMaster University with a BA in history and also of Mohawk College. He has a certificate in broadcast television, and he has worked many years as an on-air audio man at CHTV. Robin is a member of many local heritage groups, including head of the Lake Historical Society, the Hamilton Mountain Heritage Society, the Beach Canal Lighthouse Group, and the Hamilton Wentworth Heritage Association. He is a past member of the Plaque subcommittee of the Hamilton Historical Board. Robin is also a contributing author to the Hamiltonians, Vanishing Hamilton, Memories of the Beach Strip, and Hamilton Book of Everything. Most recently, he published Viewpoints, Perceptions of a Visually Impaired Photographer, and he's preparing a series of books that follow his cemetery tours. And I do believe today he will announce the one that he has recently published during the past year. Robin, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here because it's my first chat with you ladies, and that it's your 110th anniversary. And today's tour is virtual, of course, but it's right out of my second book, which is the Gone But Not Forgotten, and it's the women's tour that I'm going to do today. And I've done 2 volumes now, and I plan on 2 more, and I'm working on the 3rd volume now. So the pandemic's been good to me, even though I did get COVID. So that's fine. So should I share my screen, Lee?
Yes, I believe you can. If not, let me know and I'll fix it up.
It seems I do not have my...
Okay, I think you should be able to now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
No, I don't think so.
I'm seeing your screen.
You are seeing my screen?
Yeah.
I can't see my
It's
screen.
on the wrong tab, but I can see your screen.
I cannot see my screen.
Oh.
I need to see my screen. I've not seen this before, so
Okay.
I have a problem here.
Okay, let me see what I can.
I see the Zoom screen.
you need to minimize some of your tabs.
Yeah,
Eventually,
we can see your screen, Robin. It's just that I think you're supposed to have the PowerPoint open.
I realize that, but
Okay.
I didn't. I had the Zoom all
Oh,
over
there it
me.
is. Okay.
Zoom was all over me.
Okay. You go. Okay, now we're good.
Yeah,
I knew it
I
was
got
your
it.
screen.
Yeah. Now I've got the mute stuff on the top, and I can't get to the. Which one is it here? Nope. Nope. I can't get rid of the top, so I can't get down to it.
You can click on the side. Click on number 2.
Can you see underneath security? I can't get to it.
Okay, I'm not sure what you do here. Do you just want to hold that up to the full screen up here? Oh, you can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can't see under the banner that's there. Okay, let's try this again. See, the banner is at the top of my page, and it's taken over the PowerPoint prompts.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, see, now I can't see it again.
I
How do I-
wonder, is there something across the bottom there that makes it go full screen? I don't know what that.
No, yeah, okay, it's at the. This has never happened before.
Okay, don't worry. What if you made that like full screen with the 2 little boxes at the top, next to the X? If you did that, what happens there? Oh, no, that's worse.
No, this will go. This is what I need.
A slideshow.
Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
there you are. Yay.
Yeah, there we go. All right. It's just a bar that's up on top that I couldn't see that prompt.
Okay, we got it now.
Yep. All right. Sorry about that, ladies, but I think I worked it out pretty well for visually impaired. So there you go. And now I have a blockage on top of it, so I can't even see what I'm looking for. Anyway, this is the women's tour. It took me 10 years to research this, find the information, and actually do the tour. And I was very proud to do it. And I always launch it for the first tour of the year on Mother's Day. And this month, we had 73 people come out for Mother's Day on Doors Open.
Wow.
And I was quite impressed with that, simply because I'm there every Saturday, and Doors Open was only one day, and people coming to me for Doors Open would take away from them seeing some other site. So I was quite impressed with that people would come on Mother's Day to come to the cemetery. It's kind of an interesting concept, right? Bring your mother to the cemetery. But anyway, it's taken me this long to do it. There's very few known women of the Victorian age, because what it is that I had a problem with it because of the amount of men during the Victorian ages that did not recognize women as even people. And so the idea of a woman that would stand out in a society of men, especially white men, that and Protestant, that it was difficult to find a story that would actually be told, because a lot of it was suppressed in the sense of the society and who was running it at the time. the tour itself is very much into the idea of sending you back into time during the time of these women that did what they did in the legacy that they left for us today. And so things that I say in the tour are not PC today, in the sense that I want you to realize that society has progressed throughout the years for women's equal rights and stuff like that. And women were not allowed to own property. They could not vote until 1919, I think it was. And so the idea is that you've come a long way, baby. And I try to push it back into the sense that if you forgot where the beginnings of the equality started, it was these women that would actually get outside their comfort zone and do something for society. And it wasn't really just for women; it was for all society. And they became heroes to me. So here we go. This is Lydia Ann Jackson, and she was born in 1804, and she died in 1875. Lydia married a guy named Edward Jackson, and he was a manufacturer here in Hamilton of stoves and tinware and stuff like that. And she dedicated her time and money, his money, to charitable activities. Now, Lydia Ann would be a person that had money. She had prestige because of her husband. And so to keep her busy, she would have teas, make money, and raise money, and do good things in the society because she was a privileged woman at the time. She was married to a rich man. They established the Wesleyan female college, and that's the white building there, the first picture on the left, and the Hamilton Orphan Asylum and School, and they also helped build the Centenario Church, and that's the one on the top right. Now that's important because these are builders of organizations and schools and what have you for the greater good of society. And these two items come important in the next generation of women that help things. Their home was on Maiden Lane, and when Edwin died, the city changed the name to Jackson Street, and their mansion went to W.E. Sanford, and he called it Wessenford. So there's the connection of the mansion and the women and the background. And so these were privileged people, and Sanford was now the second generation into it, and he became a senator. Now, Martha Julia Cartman, she was born in 1845 and died in 1945. She was almost 100 years old. Now, Martha attended the college, the female college, that Lillian Jackson started. So if it wasn't for Jackson doing the college, Martha would not have got educated as a teacher. So you see the cause and effect of women doing something in the past and affecting more women in the future. And she became a teacher, and in 1872 she dedicated herself to the Centennial Church Women's Missionary Society. Now the church, and she's now in the Missionary Society, the church was built by the Jacksons. So the idea is that the society, Missionary Society, would not have existed if the Jacksons would not have been benevolent and put their money into those two projects. So now Martha has become the benefactor of both the schooling, the teaching, and the missionary. Because of Jackson's money being put in. She was sent to Japan as the first women missionary to Japan. And the reason for that is that male white men, this Japan had a stricter mores in the sense of their culture. White men, they had just opened up the Japan to the West, and white men were not allowed to look at their women or their children. So the idea was is that a woman could go to Japan as a missionary and start the school. And in 1884, she opened the society's first boarding school for girls in Tokyo. And by 1887, the enrollment surpassed 250, and she had to hire 2 more teachers. Um, Martha Health's decline, and she returned to Hamilton, and she died in her 100th year, not knowing the fate of her school. Now, she dies in March of 1945, and Canada was at war with the Japanese, and the war was still on. She did not know the fate of her school in Tokyo because the atomic bombs did not drop until August of 45, which ended the war. So she must have been in a real problem at the end of her life as to what she did with the school and the Allies in the war. The tombstone there is hers, and you can see the Japanese writing on it. And she is known in Japan as a hero because she allowed women or girls to be taught for the first time. And the Japanese grasped onto that, knowing that they would be the future of the next generation for Japan. And to this day, Japanese students from that school come to Hamilton and lay flowers on Martha's grave, just to honor her. She's considered a hero there. This is Sarah Weiner, 1801 to 1891. She was Sarah Ryan, and she was a 12-year-old girl during the War of 1812, and she witnessed the Battle of Beaver Dams. The battle was fought, a 3-hour battle, and won by the native allies, but the British took the glory. Fitzgibbons, the British commander, asked Sarah to deliver his dispatches to his commanding officers, and he had to ask her father. Her father was the minister of Beaver Dams Church. Beaver Dams Church and Cemetery still exist today, just near Lake Gibson. And he said yes. Sarah was put on a horse. Fitzgibbons gave the dispatches to her. And when she hid the dispatches in her dress, she became a British spy. This was kept secret by the family because they didn't want the church to be burnt down and their farm to be destroyed by the Americans. And so it was never revealed during the War of 1812. What happened was that she married a man named John Weiner. He became very successful with drugs and potions and stuff like that in Hamilton. He had many patterns on medicine, and he was asked to write in a book called Imminent and no, what was it? Yeah, First Made Men and Imminent and First Made Men, or Self-Made Men. And in that book, during his writing of his own bios, I did this, I did this, I did this, I'm a good guy, I made a lot of money. He exposes the family secret for the very first time of Sarah's exploits during the War of 1812. So in his bio, he tells the world about Sarah's ride and it comes out in the 1880s. At that time, near the end of her life, she is interviewed by the Spectator, and they said, "Did you do this?" Because no one has ever heard of it. And she humbly said, "Yes." So she said she did it, and you'll never find it in any history book of the War of 1812. At that point, I thought this was my highest point of finding new history on the War of 1812. Adelaide Hoodless, 1857 to 1910. Adelaide was a champion of education of women in the domestic sciences. As president of the YWCA, she introduced classes for women. And she was, the society at the time did not think that women needed to be taught. It was natural for women to know about cooking and cleaning and taking care of kids and stuff like that. But everybody needs help. And so Adelaide put this into an educational form and started teaching women how to do that. And it was a good thing in the sense that she was helping other women not have a tragedy like she did, because she had a loss of a child because she didn't know about unpasteurized milk at the time. And so she was didn't want other women to fall into that spot where they lose a child. But at the same time, the idea was that she was keeping women in the kitchen at home with the children. So there was no real progression of the women in society, but there was, because she was teaching them. There was education for the first time for a lot of women. She created the first Women's Institute in 1897, and their motto was "For home and country." That was a brilliant model, absolutely brilliant, that the men's society of the time could not go against it, because it said "for home." And that meant we're going to teach the women and they're going to stay at home. And that's what men wanted at the time. And country. It was so patriotic that if a man went against that, they were unpatriotic. So it was the best model a woman's society could ever pick up. And it was absolutely brilliant. It is now an international organization. She also helped found the Victorian Order of Nurses and the National Council of Women. So I put the stamp in there because this woman is another Hamilton hero. And, you know, to get on a stamp, that's absolutely amazing. Yeah, let's see, there's Laura Secord is also on a stamp. Can't think of any others. There's a new one just recently. Now, Mary McQuestion, she is a controversial woman, very strong, very dominating, but there's a reason for it. 49 to 34. Mary was left a widow and poor by the suicide of her husband. She became a very dominating matriarchal of the McQuestion family. And this is where she became very strong in getting the family to be more strong again, you know. And she kept the financial situation a secret, so that people wouldn't know, because she was in society and with the church and stuff like that. So she sent her older daughter Ruby to Ottawa to teach, and she sent money back home to pay for the bills and put Tom, her older brother, through school, because Mary decided that Tom was going to be the savior of the family, and he had to be educated and become a successful man in this case, and who sacrificed was Ruby, and she's the one that did all the work for helping the family. Mary maintained herself in the community by helping create the Women's Missionary Society, and that's the same society that Martha Cartman went to Japan with. So all this is intermingled with societies and people going off to Japan. In 1889, she helped create the YWCA, and again, that's where she was connected with Adelaide Hoodless, doing the same thing. Now, Mary, she went the opposite side of it, where she was more into the teaching of the women and as strong women, that type of thing. And sometimes they went against each other with uh, Adelaide Hoodless and McQuestion. Now, Ruby McQuestion, 1879 to 1911. Mary, Ruby's mother, sent her to Ottawa to teach and send the money home to pay the bills and put Tom, her brother, through school. Ruby met a man who proposed marriage to her, and swiftly Mary objected to the marriage because if Ruby got married, the money would go away, and so she was denied a life of her own with a husband. Ruby became ill and returned home, and only after Tom had become a successful lawyer. Tom thanked Ruby for her sacrifice. He realized what was happening, and she was dying of tuberculosis. He went and thanked her for her sacrifice to him. Ruby is a double tragic female. She was denied a life of marriage and the future, and she lost her life too soon. Susan Bonetto, 1850, 1919. Susan became a teacher in 67 at the age of 17, and she taught at Cannon Street School. That does not exist anymore. Central School, which does exist. And in 1888, she became the first female principal of the Picton School in the North End, and would be there for the next 30 years. She was strict but fair. She was respected by her students and her fellow teachers and principals. She taught many prominent Hamiltonians, including 5 future mayors. In 1920, after her death, Picton School was renamed the Bonetto School. Cortez Gordon, 1886 to 1961. Cortez took lessons from John Gordon, who was a prominent local artist for himself here, which would become her future husband. In 1916, her landscape was accepted by the Royal Canadian Academy. John asked her to, they re-met again, and asked her to teach at the Hamilton Technical Institute, where he was the principal, and they married in 1920. During the 1920s, the Gordons traveled to Europe 15 times, I believe it was, and were influenced by the new rising artist in Paris and what have you. John remained traditional, but Cortez went abstract and overshadowed her husband. He could not maintain that division of who was more important, and he drank himself to death. Kathleen Blake, 1864 to 1915. In the 1890s, she arrived in Toronto and became the first female woman's page editor in Canada. And the Prime Minister, Laurier, read her column. In 1898, during the Spanish-American War, she made her way to Cuba and became the first female war correspondent. She was a feisty little girl. She was Irish. She returned to Canada, married, and left journalism. She founded the Media Club of Canada and a journalism scholarship is named after her. And in the cemetery, she has a Celtic cross to show where she came from, Ireland. The Barton murder, October 9th, 1905. A female murdered victim's body was found in Barton Township near Lime Ridge Road. She had been shot in the head and had no identification. The authorities were in a, what are we going to do? They had no clues, but the clothing. So they identified the clothing over and over again, describing it. What she wore, and so they set up a viewing so someone might identify her. It just went wrong. People got into the macabre and wanted to see a dead body with a hole in her head, and so finally, what happened is that the authorities shut it down, and then weeks went by with no progress at all. And a $600 reward was posted. Still, nothing came forward. She was buried in Section X, number 10, Lot 1. It's an unmarked grave, and to this day, the murder has not been solved. If not even solved, we don't even know her name, and that's why I have underneath the sketch from the newspaper, unknown. Sarah Calder, 1846 to 1914. For the centennial of the War of 1812, Sarah asked the men, this is a good one, the men of the Wentworth Historical Society, if they would buy the Gage homestead and turn it into a museum. The men said no. Sarah did not like that. So she kept bugging them, and finally they said yes, that if she could raise the money, the society would do two projects, one at Smith Knoll and open a museum in the Gage homestead. She raised the money, founded the Women's Wentworth Historical Society, bought the property, and the men never saw a penny. Now, that's important because a woman could not buy the property, so they had to set up a society to buy the property. Sarah became the president, and they bought the property. And they opened the museum. It was one of the first museums in Ontario, and it was run by women. The Victoria censors were always, I think I missed one. I think I missed one. Anyway, she thought she looked a little bit like Queen Victoria, and Victoria died in 1901. So what she decided to do was raise money again and put a statue in downtown Gore Park. She raised the money, hired Hebert, who was the sculpture of the Ottawa Queen Victoria statue, and he also did all the prime ministers around the Parliament Hill. And so she raised the money and got him to do the sculpture, and it was unveiled by Governor General Earl Grey. Earl Grey is also the fellow that gave the Grey Cup to the CFL. That was in 1905. And this is where I think I missed a slide. Victorian censorship always draped the flag on the hind parts of the lion, a symbol of of power. If you can see that the flag is there, but it's behind the lion. But in this case, it's the flag is not there to do what it's supposed to do, is cover up the nasty bits of the lion. That's the Victorian censorship of the time. So the Queen Victoria statue in downtown Gore Park is anatomically correct. It got through the Victorian censors, so the nasty bits are showing. She didn't stop there. She wanted a monument to the Battle of Stony Creek. So she raised the money again, hired the architect Rastic, and the monument was built. 100 years to the day, the monument was unveiled 100 days from the battle of June 6. So that would be June 6, 1913. It was unveiled by the Queen of England from Buckingham Palace. Sarah was a Victoria Dynamo woman and would not take no for an answer. She left all these legacy monuments for us today. And during that whole time, she was in mourning because she had lost all her children except one and her husband. So somehow through that grief of losing her family, she gathered all that strength, put it into the power that she had within, and created the legacy monuments that she did for us today. Sarah Calder is a true female hero of Hamilton, and I would say even Canada. So thank you very much. This is where you can get the books from me. They're only $20. You can come on a tour and get the books any Saturday. You can give me an email, robinmckee3@gmail.com. Give me a call or check out the website, and that's where I also have my email. So I don't have it in bookstores. I'm selling it all by myself. So thank you very much. Any questions?
We might have to unmute everyone.
Yeah, if you have a question, just stick your hand up and unmute yourself. I can't unmute you.
Okay.
There is a question in chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, Robin, Ruth would like to know what happened to Sarah Calder's family. How did they all die?
That I don't know for sure. What it is that they were children. Some didn't even last a year, and the idea is that there's a lot of childhood diseases, diphtheria, anything could take a child, and so I don't know the exact reasons for the deaths of the children, but children disease, I would assume is what happened. They didn't have the vaccinations at the time. Mm-hmm. Oh, now you move up. What the heck? The whole bar just moved up.
We could see it fine, Robin.
Okay, good. Anything else?
Robin, I'm sitting here in Ottawa. Sometimes I like to participate. I grew up in Hamilton. And I've never been into that cemetery. I always admired it as we drove by, but I was never in. So you must have gone through there and identified all the women, and then you started doing research on each of them individually?
Yes, yeah. And like I said at the beginning, it took me 10 years to put this together, and simply because it was difficult to find the story of the sidekick or the woman, or the wife, the relic, that kind of stuff. And it was people that we might know with a connection, but there's several women there that are not in the foreground of our thoughts and or that we know about. Sarah Calder is probably the most famous woman that would be known here in Hamilton for her legacy building. But I don't think nobody knows about Sarah Ryan or Weiner, simply because it was squashed as a secret, right? And the historians, I went to the historians in Niagara to ask them about that story, and they refused to even accept it because it was never told, never told. So I showed them the book, and yeah. So yeah, things like that. You get. I wanted to know. I wanted to give people more information. People would know Adelaide Hoodless. There's a school named after her. And in another thing about Adelaide Hoodless, there's a plaque in front of the school entrance. It's in the East End, and it says gives her her bio, and in one of the lines it says and she was one of the first women to drive a car in Hamilton, and she drove it too fast. So the whole society is run by males, and even someone like Adelaide Hoodless, who did so much for women for education and children and what have you, the plaque says she drove too fast, so they had to put her down somehow. She was reckless. Yeah. And to think of it, that's 1910. How many cars were actually on the road? So, yeah.
And to watch out for those horses.
Well, that too. Yeah. So, and it wasn't even paved at the time, so you can't go so fast, right? So, yeah. So it was an adventure just to find the ladies, to tell the story, find them in the cemetery, and then launch it in a tour. So it's quite yeah. In the book, there's 17 women that I have found, and so that I didn't give you all 17 today, and just to show you. In each section, I have a map, and it gives you the so you can walk by the book and then have a self-walking tour, and that way you can stop at one, stop at two. I kind of made it bozo proof, so it's really hard to find. Sometimes it's really hard to find a marker, especially if you don't know where you're headed. And yeah, it's and I even describe how to get there and how to get around it. And so you've got directions, you got a map, and I also I include the photograph of the stone of the woman. And yeah, I was quite surprised that every one of the stones are there, because well, that's not true either. The unknown Barton murder does not have a stone. She's in an unmarked grave. And there's another one too that is unmarked, and that had to do with Rocco Perry. So, of course, it's not marked.
Robin,
Yes.
I'll just I'll toot your horn for you here. I know you were talking about the spy, Sarah Ryder, or Sarah Weiner. And a few years ago, you and a friend put together a play called Ryan's Ride. And I believe you presented it to the Women's Canadian Club one afternoon.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
With Paula, was that her name?
Yeah, Paula. And Paula and I put together an actual a play, and we launched it at Six Nations. because the idea of a 12-year-old girl meeting a 12-year-old native, and they were trying to be friends, and it was reconciliation even before anything else. So they were teaching each other their language. And I have a Alfred Hitchcock moment in that play, and the Sarah points to a bird in a tree and says, "What's that?" And the native says, repeats it in whatever language it was, and it turns out that the translation is Robin. So I put Robin in the play, so it's kind of fun. Yeah. She also I took her to Fort York during the bicentennial of the War of 1812, and I had a pup tent there, and then I told her story with visuals, and hundreds of people came through, hundreds of people. So yeah, and I also hired an artist, and he painted Sarah's ride. So yeah, and that was put on. My son wants me. So yeah. So I truly believe that Sarah did her run or ride, and she basically is the Laura Secord of Hamilton. Yeah, she did something bigger, right, by delivering dispatches. Great story.
You think she only,
I'm in a meeting. I'll call you.
do you think she only did that once? I mean, I don't really understand what delivering dispatches would mean. Would she just have gone to one destination? Would she have gone there repeatedly?
No. It was a one-time deal. Okay, Fitzgibbons took the glory for the winning the Battle of Beaver Dams by those dispatches, and what he was hoping to have was promotion and more money. And so what he had to do was get the dispatches out as fast as possible so that the truth didn't come out that the natives fought the battle and won. And so his commanding officers got an official report of the battle saying, "I won the Battle of Beaver's Dam." And well, the British all know that, right? So and the natives are now not in the natives took the blood. They fought for 3 hours. They fought the Americans to a standstill, and Fitzgibbons came in with 10 men and basically said, surrender, or the natives will scalp you. And the Americans gave up to 10 guys. And the idea is that the natives fought the battle. They took the blood, and Fitzgibbons took the glory.
It was ever thus.
What was that?
It was ever thus.
I still didn't catch that.
It was ever thus.
Oh, ever thus. Okay, yes. Yeah, of course. Of course, yeah. Yeah.
There's so many brave women.
Mm-hmm. And
Native people.
And Sarah at that time was only 12 years old. He had to ask the father, who was a minister. They were very loyal to the British. So, and Sarah would have had to say, well, she wouldn't had to say. She said yes because of her loyalty. And they were very religious. They were very pious. They were very humble people. And when she married John Weiner in Christ Church Cathedral, there is a south window dedicated to the Weiner family, stained glass. So they helped build Christ Church Cathedral.
Very interesting talk. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Robin, on behalf of the Women's Canadian Club of Hamilton, I want to thank you very much for giving up your time this afternoon and for meeting with us and giving us such a wonderful presentation. I've seen a lot of your other presentations, so I knew it was going to be good. But as always, there's always something new that I'm learning from you. When you give one of your talks, there's a little tidbit or a little bit of information, a little snippet of something. And it's just wonderful to learn all the time. I look forward to seeing your books, and we will help you promote them on our website and our Facebook page. I know that they're not in bookstores or anything, so we'll do what we can to help you out. And again,
that's wonderful.
And I encourage everybody to pick a nice warm Saturday and join Robin in the cemetery and for another one of his tours. They're all wonderful, and I think Suzanne's with you there a lot of Saturdays helping out anyway. So again, thank you so very, very much for coming and presenting today.
It was my pleasure and my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.